something for everyone in the wonderful world of basketball, and it earns its popularity in a variety of ways. To some, the sound and color of the crowd itself is a big part of the appeal. Some like the game for its speed and high-scoring action. To some, the science of the game is the main attraction, the finesse of ball control, the perfection that comes from long, hard practice. It's a sport that has something for everyone. But whatever its appeal to you, as a player, coach, or spectator, this much is certain. The more you know the game and its rules, the more enjoyment you'll get from it. That's the purpose of this film, to help you to a better understanding of the rules that make basketball the top attraction that it is. It's the responsibility of the officials to conduct the game in accordance with these rules and to communicate by clear signals every phase of the game's administration so that the players, coaches, bench officials, press and broadcast media, spectators, all are kept fully informed. For example, excessive swinging of the arms and elbows, like this, is a violation. When a violation occurs, the official blows his whistle immediately, signaling a dead ball. Then he signals the nature of the violation. He indicates the throw-in spot, the direction of play, and the team entitled to the throw-in, and hands the ball to a nearby player of the offended team. If contact results from swinging of the arms and elbows, it's a personal foul. An official signals after a foul will indicate first, the ball is dead and the clock stopped. The official looks directly at the player charged with the foul, calls his number and uniform color, and makes certain the player raises his hand at arm's length above his head. He now signals the nature of the foul to the scorer's bench. When the scorer has the information, the penalty is administered. This was a player control foul, so the ball is awarded to the offended team out of bounds. After being charged with a personal foul, a player is given not more than 3 seconds to raise his hand properly without being told. If he fails to do so, it's a technical foul. Raising the hand at less than a full arm's length, or doing it in a way that shows resentment at the call, is also a technical foul. The penalty is 1 free throw. It may be attempted by any player of the team awarded the try after the free throw for the personal foul. Technical fouls may be committed by persons other than players. A coach who leaves the bench for an unauthorized reason commits a technical foul. A coach or other non-player may go on the court during the game when an official calls him to check on a possibly injured player. The failure of a team to resume play promptly after a timeout or to refuse at any time to obey immediately an official's instruction to play is a technical foul. Continued or prolonged delay or refusal to play may cause the game to be forfeited. Grasping the basket at any time, whether the ball is alive or dead, is a technical foul. Many situations call for split-second judgment by officials. Here, with time running out, a player attempts a field goal as the buzzer sounds. Does the goal count? Let's watch again. The buzzer sounds before the ball has left the player's hands. Therefore, time has expired. The basket does not count. But if the ball is in flight when time expires, the ball remains alive until the basket is made or missed. So in this case, the goal counts. Whether or not the ball is in flight when time runs out may also determine if a foul occurs. Here, the ball is in flight when time expires. It will remain alive till the basket is made or missed. And this contact, therefore, is a personal foul by number 45. But here, time expires before the ball is in flight. The ball is dead, so the contact is disregarded, unless it's ruled unsportsmanlike, in which case it's a technical or dead ball foul. Certain errors by officials, specified cases in which a rule is inadvertently set aside, may be corrected if action is taken in time. Here, with the bonus rule in effect, the official mistakenly awards only one free throw. This error can be corrected by the officials if it's called to their attention before the clock is started. Officials must also watch the actions of a dribbler carefully, with certain basic principles in mind. As long as the palm of the dribbler's hand is vertical or facing downward in any degree while in contact with the ball, the action is legal. The height of the bounce and the length of time the hand is touching the ball is immaterial, as is the number of bounces between touching. A player who loses control during a dribble may recover the ball and pass or try for goal, but he may not recover and dribble again. If he fumbles before starting a dribble, he may recover and dribble. And here's another example.
While the boys are taking a break, I'd like to stress one thing about this film. Most of the points in it are pretty basic, and for a good reason. You've got to learn the difference between palming the ball and dribbling. You've got to master the basics to win. And I found that one of the basics you need to win is good nutrition. That's why I always start my day with Wheaties, breakfast of champions. It has the basics of raw wheat, crude protein, natural sugars, potent wheat germ, vitamins, and iron. So stick to the basics. Stick to Wheaties, breakfast of champions.
Basketball rules forbid any basket interference during a free throw or field goal attempt. But with the lightning-fast action that takes place around the basket, it takes sharp eyes as well as experience for an official to distinguish between legal and illegal actions. Two types of violations may occur in this area: goaltending and basket interference. Goaltending can be committed only during field goal attempts. Here is goaltending. A defensive player touches the ball during its downward flight, while the entire ball is above the level of the ring. For this violation, 2 points are awarded the offended team. Another example. During a field goal attempt, the ball is touched during its downward flight, while it's entirely above the basket ring level, and while it has a possibility of entering the basket. When offensive goaltending occurs, no points can be scored. It is not goaltending if the ball, when touched, is not entirely above the basket ring level. Basket interference can occur on both field goal and free throw tries. Basket interference is the touching of the basket, either the ring or the net, while the ball is on or within the basket. When offensive basket interference occurs, no score is allowed. All these acts constitute basket interference. This is basket interference followed by a technical foul, grasping the rim. Defensive basket interference brings the award of 2 points to the offended team on field goal tries, 1 point on a free throw. Basket interference also occurs if the ball is touched while it's within or touching the imaginary cylinder that has the ring as its base. For this reason, so-called dunking of the ball is basket interference. A player's hand may not be in contact with the ball when it is touching the cylinder or the basket. But there's no violation if the ball is released before it enters the cylinder. Here it is again. One mark of a good official is his ability to recognize actual held ball situations and not to anticipate what may become a held ball. It's a held ball when two or more opponents have their hands so firmly on the ball that control can't be gained or maintained without undue roughness. It's not a held ball if a player merely touches the ball while it's in his opponent's possession. It's not a held ball if a player bats the ball out of an opponent's grasp. Incidentally, there's no foul if a player strikes his opponent's hand while that hand is touching the ball. This is legal. But striking an opponent anywhere except on a hand which is touching the ball is a personal foul. Experienced officials will never call a held ball before it actually occurs. And it does not occur when opponents are touching the ball but no one has control. Likewise, contact between two players, both legally trying to get the ball, and neither in a position of advantage over the other, is not an infraction. This is considered incidental contact. Anticipating a held ball, calling it before it occurs to avoid a possible foul or roughness, is unfair to the player in possession. In this case, a held ball never actually occurs. But in this case, it does. Even though the guard touches the ball only long enough to block the attempt, the official declares a held ball when the player returns to the floor with the ball. In the same situation, though, the ball is passed off before the player returns to the floor. There is no held ball. If a closely guarded player maintains control of the ball in the midcourt area for 5 seconds, a held ball is called. A player is in control whether he is holding the ball or dribbling. The count stops when a player passes the ball or dribbles out of the midcourt area.
Behind the basketball rules book are years of experience and acceptance. And it's the same with the Wilson line of basketball equipment. Acceptance is the word for Wilson basketballs. The Jet, precision made for championship performance, outstanding response, and unmatched feel. And the Wilson Comet, used by the NBA for 21 years because it exceeds every professional standard for balance and consistency. Wilson's distinctive colorful warm-ups and uniforms, too, have earned the acceptance of the nation's top high school, college, and professional teams because of their styling, their expert tailoring, and superb materials. Yes, Wilson is accepted as the name that stands for the very best in basketball. That's why the Wilson Jet and the Wilson Comet are seen in today's finest circles.
In a game as fast and furious as basketball, where 10 players are all moving in a limited area, contact is bound to occur frequently. But contact that is unavoidable and unintentional, that does not hinder another player or give anyone an advantage, is considered incidental contact. It's the duty of officials to determine whether contact between players is incidental or illegal. Both defensive and offensive players have definite rights and restrictions during play. Let's consider these separately. First, the principles governing defensive play, the guarding of an opponent. In establishing a legal guarding position, a player must face his opponent. After assuming a guarding position, though, he need not continue to face the opponent. In taking a guarding position, a player is entitled to any spot on the court that he can reach legally. A guard can be as close to an opponent as he wishes, as long as no illegal contact is made. The principles of guarding apply whether or not the player being guarded has the ball. Generally, a player is considered closely guarded if his opponent is within 6 feet of him. In guarding from the rear, the guard must allow his opponent freedom to stand erect. This is a foul by the guard. Again, a player may take a legal guarding position at any spot on the court he can reach first without contacting an opponent. Here, number 14 is in a legal position, so the contact is a foul by number 33. After taking a guarding position, a player may move to stay in the path of an opponent. If contact occurs while a player is legally maintaining guarding position, the foul is by the player being guarded. But if a guard is moving toward his opponent, either directly or obliquely, when contact occurs, as here, it's a foul by the guard. To repeat, if a player is in a legal guarding position when contact with his opponent occurs, the responsibility is the opponent's. But when contact occurs before a guard has taken a legal position in his opponent's path, the foul is by the guard. In determining whether a guard has a legal position in an opponent's path when contact occurs, officials will note the position of the opponent's head and shoulders at the moment of contact. If they are beyond the guard's body, like this, the foul is by the guard. Failure to be in a legal position. But in this case, the guard is in legal position. The dribbler's head and shoulders are not past the guard when contact is made. A guard is entitled to an erect position, and he may raise his arms above his shoulders. So this contact with the guard's arm is a foul by the offense. Here it is again. When a guard is in a legal position, any contact that occurs is the fault of the opponent. But under no circumstances may a player move into an opponent's path after the opponent has jumped into the air. This is always ruled an intentional foul and carries a penalty of 2 free throws. This rule, prohibiting moving into an opponent's path while he's in the air, applies to all players at all times during a game. This is a foul by the offense. Just as there are strict rules governing defensive play, the guarding of opponent, there are equally strict rules for offensive players engaged in screening. Screening is defined as a legal action by an offensive player who delays or prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. Let's consider the requirements for a legal screen. First, a screener must be stationary at the time of any contact with an opponent. There's only one exception to this, and we'll come to that later. Second, a screener must take his stationary position the required distance from his opponent. This distance varies according to the play situation. If the screener is within the visual field of a stationary opponent, he may be as close as he likes, short of contact. As long as a stationary opponent may reasonably be expected to see the screener, as here, the screen may be set at any distance that avoids contact. But if it's a blind screen, that is, a screen set outside the opponent's visual field, then the screener must be far enough away from a stationary opponent to allow that opponent one normal step toward the screener before any contact. The length of a normal step is determined by the player being screened. Here, the screener is very close, but his opponent takes only a short step backward. No foul. But this time, a longer step brings contact. Foul by the screener. The screener should allow for a normal stride. But an exaggerated stride like this, in an effort to make contact, is not a normal step. The distance at which a screen may legally be set for a moving opponent depends on the opponent's speed. The screener must take his stationary position far enough in advance of his opponent to allow that opponent to stop or avoid contact. In some cases, a distance of 1 step is sufficient. In no situation is it necessary to set a screen more than 2 strides from an opponent. Failure to allow the opponent to stop or avoid contact is a foul by the screener. Foul by the offense. In all cases but one, a screener must be stationary at the time of any contact. This is the exception. A moving screen is legal if both opponents are moving in the same path and same direction. In this situation, the player behind, the player being screened, is responsible for avoiding contact if the screener stops or slows down. A player with the ball may be a screener, as here. The foul is by the defense. But except in the case of a legal moving screen, the rules require a screener to be stationary at the time of any contact. On blind screens, as here for example, the player being screened often can't help making contact with the screener. This contact may be quite hard, but it's considered incidental if the player being screened stops on contact. If he fails to stop after contact or makes any further contact with the screener, he's guilty of a foul. The factor which determines whether contact resulting from a screen is incidental or a foul is not the severity of the contact. It's the degree to which the player being screened attempts to minimize that contact. If, in the official's judgment, the screened player makes no effort to avert or minimize the contact after he sees the screener, he is charged with a foul. While screens themselves are offensive maneuvers, there are some situations in which the principles of legal screening apply to defensive actions. For example, on a pass-out or outlet pass, when a player is moving down the floor and looking back to receive a pass, and a guard takes a position in his path. In this situation, a guard, in order to take a legal defensive position, must observe screening principles. The guard must take a stationary position far enough in advance of his opponent so that contact could be avoided if he were seen. This distance depends on the opponent's speed, but 2 strides is always sufficient. The guard's position is legal. So the contact is a foul by the offensive player, even though he never saw the guard. But on this pass-out, the guard takes a position that would not allow the other player to avoid contact, even if the guard were seen. So the foul is by the guard. But screening principles apply to a guard's actions only when his opponent does not have the ball. For example, here the guard takes a position less than a step in front of his opponent, but it's legal because the opponent has the ball. And since a player with the ball must always expect to be closely guarded, he's responsible for any contact with a guard who is in legal position. Screening principles may also apply in this defensive situation, involving changing opponents or switching. When the guard, number 31, moves in front of the post player, a pass is lobbed toward the post. He backs up to take it, but another guard has switched into his path. When contact occurs, it's a foul by the post player. Let's see it again. When this guard switches, screening principles require him to allow the postman room enough to stop or avoid contact. This distance would have been sufficient had the postman seen the guard. The contact is a foul by the offensive player. But this time, the guard is at fault. He takes his position so close to his opponent that there's no chance to avoid contact. The foul is by the guard. So that's a look at some of the rules that govern this great game of basketball. A wonderful world in itself, populated by thousands of players, coaches, and officials who are actively in the game, and by millions of others who support their teams, win or lose, to help make this tremendous sports spectacle bigger and better every year. And there's a place for you in the picture. You're welcome to enjoy all this just for the color and excitement if you like. But if you really want in on the action, you'll need something more, a knowledge of the game's rules. You can't get the most out of America's top spectator sport until you do know your basketball.